Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. We got a big show for you today. Benny Johnson will be here with the latest on Senator Mark Kelly under investigation over that video where he warned the military about following Trump's illegal orders. Which ones are those again? Plus, Jen Psaki is complaining about the press being soft on Trump. Okay, that's the issue. Yes, it's the press is too soft on Trump. But first, we have got to discuss this. What happened yesterday? A Clinton-appointed judge dismissing both indictments against James Comey and Letitia James, finding that Trump prosecutor Lindsay Halligan was improperly appointed. That sounds like a major victory for Comey and Tish James, but we took a closer look at the cases, and both Comey and James should not be celebrating quite yet because this thing is far from over. To help us dive into this, we're going to bring in two of our favorites, Dave Aronberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, and now managing partner of Dave Aronberg Law and MK True Crime contributor, and Mike Davis, who's founder and president of the Article 3 Project. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. I have to tell you about this incredible show hitting stages soon, Shen Yun. In our fast-paced world, it is rare to find something that pulls you into the beauty of tradition like Shen Yun, taking you on a journey through 5,000 years of Chinese culture with dance and music that's captivating. You will see amazing dancers bringing to life myths and legends, heroic warriors and heavenly realms, all in gorgeous costumes and with flips and spins that look effortless yet superhuman. And the orchestra? It is a perfect mix of classic Chinese sounds and full Western ensemble, creating music that tugs at your heartstrings. It weaves in timeless values like kindness, bravery, and balance. Great for date nights, family outings. Kids love the color and action, and it leaves you refreshed and inspired. It's more than entertainment. It is a cultural revival. Go to shenyun.com. That's SHENYUN.com/Megyn to waive fees when you order tickets. Don't miss Shen Yun, where the past comes alive in a spectacular way. Guys, welcome.
Great to be back with you, Megyn.
Yeah, great to see you. So if you watch anything on the mainstream media, they would tell you this is a complete victory for Comey and Tish James. I realize it is good news for today, very good news, but not quite so fast necessarily, because Mike Davis, why don't you outline for us what the court did here and what's going to happen next?
Yeah, there is overwhelming evidence that James Comey lied to the Senate and obstructed a congressional investigation as it relates to Crossfire Hurricane, the biggest scandal in American history, where Democrats politicized and weaponized intel agencies and law enforcement to take out their political enemies. The prior interim U.S. attorney, who was on a 120-day appointment, refused to bring the indictments against Comey. He also refused to bring an indictment against New York Attorney General Tish James, where there is overwhelming evidence that she committed bank fraud when she lied on her mortgage application for an investment property in Virginia instead of a second home. So she got more favorable rates, higher risk. Lindsay Halligan got appointed as the next U.S. attorney, interim U.S. attorney, by the Attorney General. She sought indictments against both Comey and Big Tish James. She secured those indictments with a Democrat-controlled grand jury in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Certainly not a rubber stamp, because this grand jury also rejected the more serious perjury charge against James Comey. They brought false statements and obstruction charges against him, but rejected the third perjury charge. So not a rubber stamp. And again, a D.C. suburban grand jury of Democrats brought these charges. So what did both Tish James and James Comey do? They filed many motions to dismiss, many motions to derail these prosecutions. So Lindsay Halligan showed the receipts.
But the specific issue at order here is an interesting one. I'll shift it over to you, Dave. There is a statute that says when you don't have like a permanent U.S. attorney installed, that the Attorney General can install one, and it says for 120 days. And then it suggests that after that 120 days, a district court may appoint someone to the position. And the question here is whether only a district court judge may appoint someone to the position after the first 120 days, which has expired. And the question is whether, since it was AG Bondi who put Lindsay Halligan in that position after the temporary Trump AG, the guy who was just holding the post until Bondi got confirmed, he appointed Siebert. Then Siebert walked. Siebert lived out his first 120 days. He got reappointed by the judges of the district to continue. And then he either quit or was fired. Doesn't really matter. But the appointment of Lindsay Halligan was made by the AG. So it kind of went AG appointment, judge appointment, AG appointment. And now Tish James and James Comey are arguing AG Bondi did not have the right to appoint a successor. That, in other words, after that 120-day period of the initial appointment expires, only judges can appoint subsequent U.S. attorneys, which I have to say, Dave, seems completely wrong to me. There is no way that is what Congress intended in enacting this statute. It would take the powers of appointment away from the executive branch and give them to the judiciary, which makes zero sense.
Well, Megyn, it's good to be back with you and my friend Mike. It's not just the judges, though. The president can still appoint a U.S. attorney. That person just has to get confirmed by the Senate, the whole advice and consent thing. And so what you can't do is that you can't appoint someone for the 120 days and they overstay their 120 days and then replace them with another acting U.S. attorney for another 120 days, or else the appointments clause and the statute means nothing, because then the president and the attorney general can just appoint one after the next without ever having the U.S. attorney confirmed by the U.S. Senate. And so that's the issue here. And that's something that Judge Curry brought up. And by the way, the amendments to this law that says that the judges get to decide, that was passed after the whole Alberto Gonzalez U.S. attorney scandal, where it became politicized in 2006 under George W. Bush. And so the amendment was passed in 2007 in response to that. And it was designed to limit executive branch power.
But Mike, what the statute says, it's 28 U.S. Code 546 on vacancies, is except as provided in subsection B, the attorney general may appoint a U.S. attorney for the district that's vacant. Subsection B is the only subsection for which the attorney general may not appoint the U.S. attorney. What does subsection B say? It says the attorney general can't do this if the Senate has already refused to give advice and consent on this person. That's not this case. The Senate has not refused to do advice and consent on Lindsay Halligan. So the one exception in the statute to Bondi's ability to do this is not met. Then when it goes on to talk about the judges, it says, if an appointment expires, the district court for such district may appoint a U.S. attorney to serve until the vacancy is filled. And the question here is whether that is an exclusive authority by the district judge or a concurrent one. Like they can do it, or AG Bondi could do it. And AG Bondi clearly thinks she can do it, that this is not an exclusive power to the district court. And there's a little bit of funny business in this Clinton-appointed judge's opinion where Judge Curry, her name is, she, your guy, Will Chamberlain, who was on our AM update this morning, pointed this out. It was a good point. She had to break up the quotation of the statute and add her own words to make her argument. She goes to the part that says, hey, subsection D provides a single option for how subsequent appointments may be made. And she changed the words from, if an appointment expires, the district court for such district may appoint a U.S. attorney. She inserted the district court and only the district court may appoint a U.S. attorney. That's the whole case. Like that language is not in the statute. And so the whole thing comes down to whether after that initial 120 days dies, can the district court and the AG appoint a replacement or only the district court? Your thoughts?
It's concurrence. And look, this is what happened here. You had this Obama chief judge of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, that's the appellate court over the Eastern District of Virginia, hand-selected this Clinton judge from South Carolina, this Judge Curry, And she came in there and she got the result that the Democrats wanted here. This is pure judicial activism. As you said, Will Chamberlain at the Article 3 Project pointed this out on his X thread, where it's very clear that this Judge Curry made up language in the statutes to get the results she wanted. And that is going to get reversed on appeal, maybe not at the Fourth Circuit, because the Fourth Circuit is dominated by Democrats, but it will certainly get reversed by the Supreme Court of the United States. But the Democrats got what they wanted here. They got an embarrassment for Lindsey Halligan, and they got delay in this case. And so it is a purely political result here. And if this judge would have actually followed the statutes, you read them in harmony. You do not create constitutional conflict. That is one of the key canons for the judges to follow. It's called constitutional avoidance. You do not create constitutional problems when you're interpreting the law unless you have to.
If the Supreme Court doesn't take it, if the Fourth District upholds this Judge Curry and U.S. Supreme Court says we're not taking this, then this decision would stand. And there's then it would. Yeah. It would if it's not basically if the Fourth District or the Fourth Circuit affirms her and SCOTUS refuses to take it, then this judgment will stand, and Halligan will be DQ'd. She won't be able to prosecute this case. But now there's a debate about whether anyone will be able to prosecute this case. Letitia James is 100% going to get reindicted, but the question is whether Comey can be reindicted. This is, again, assuming that Halligan is off the case. Comey has an argument that there was never a proper indictment, Dave, because the person who indicted him was not properly in the role. And Judge Curry, in her opinion, says, thus restoring James Comey to the position he was in pre-indictment. So she's basically trying to completely nullify the indictment as though it was never brought. And the statute of limitations on him expired, I think, 6 days after she got the indictment. So while normally the rule is you can re-indict somebody when your indictment gets thrown out, within 6 months of the day your indictment gets thrown out, there's a question in this case about whether that would be possible.
Right.
Given the judge's language about the whole thing is nullified as though it never happened to begin with.
Right. There's that Latin phrase, void ab initio, which means it's void from the beginning. So you can't fix a defect when she did not have the right to even sign the indictment from the beginning. So the whole thing is void. I guess if you translate that Latin phrase, it means it's void from the beginning. Or you snooze, you lose. And I think that's more like it, because here, the judge in this case, she even emphasizes your point that you mentioned, or the point that she mentioned in footnote 21. And this is where she hid in some dicta, which is non-binding language, which does show her hand that she does not think this case should be refiled. And it says here on this footnote, an invalid indictment cannot serve to block the door of limitations as it swings closed. So I think that's her signal. Now, I think also from a public policy standpoint, you can make the argument that it's not good public policy to allow someone to appoint a prosecutor who does not meet the qualifications to be a prosecutor, who is there for the sole purpose of going after the president's enemies, and got in there just shortly before the statute of limitations expired. And then because of that, you give them 6 extra months to redo it and cure the defect. That would game the system. And I think that's a good public policy argument to convince the appellate courts that, no, the door is closed. You can't refile this.
Okay, but Mike, that footnote that Dave is talking about is this. Judge Curry cites 2 non-binding federal district court cases outside of her district. One is one's from hold on a second. Yeah, one's from the District of Maryland, and one's from the Northern District of Illinois. Neither's from the Eastern District of Virginia. They would only be influential if they were her level. But she needs Fourth Circuit authority or Supreme Court authority to say this cannot be refiled. And what she cites, what Dave's quoted from there is, quote, this is from a parallel court in Maryland. An invalid indictment, however, cannot serve to block the door of limitations as it swings closed. And then she has one from the Northern District of Illinois that's similar. And then the judge goes on to say, but if the earlier indictment is void, there is no legitimate peg on which to hang such a judicial limitations tolling result, meaning it's
Pause.
if the initial indictment is void, you can't get the 6 months extension. Do you agree?
No, not at all. That directly contradicts a very clear federal statute addressing this, 18 USC 3288. That indictment, the only way you would be able to get this thrown out is if they brought the indictment after the statute of limitations already, and then they threw out the indictment. You don't get 6 months if you're already beyond the statute of limitations. That's not what happens here. So and this just further shows that this Judge Curry is going out of her way as a political actor to protect Tish James and James Comey. That's very clear in the first sentence of both of her orders. And she gratuitously added these irrelevant digs at Lindsay Halligan that were not at all a part of her necessary for analysis. She says on the date of the indictment for both Comey and Halligan, Lindsay Halligan, a former White House aide with no prior prosecutorial experience, blah, blah, blah. That is completely irrelevant, whether she has
Totally agree.
This is just a political hit by this Clinton Judge
Yes.
Curry on Lindsay Halligan to discredit her.
By the way, I agree.
What was the point of including that, Dave?
Yeah.
Obviously, this judge is bitter and doesn't like Lindsay Halligan, which, I'm sorry, but F her. No one gives a shit how she feels about Lindsay Halligan personally. That had no place in either decision.
I will agree it did seem gratuitous when I first saw it. I was surprised. It was the very first sentence of the order, too, no less. And I think the reason why she put it in there was to demonstrate why this case should not be allowed to be filed under the savings clause, which says you get that extra 6 months if it's a procedural defect. She's trying to explain in advance of why this thing was null and void to begin with, because you had someone who is not qualified to be a prosecutor, who was there for the sole purpose of just getting this indictment right before the statute of limitations.
Let me ask you something. So let me just ask you something, okay? Because I never prosecuted cases. I was never a criminal prosecutor. I was big law. I was at Jones Day for most of my 9.5-year career and on the partnership track and a successful lawyer. You want to tell me I couldn't be dropped into the Eastern District of Virginia and be the U.S. attorney? Bullshit. I could do it tomorrow after 20 years off. So I don't accept that she's not qualified just because she never did criminal prosecution.
You are absolutely right that you could be dropped in and you could do it. And so could Lindsay Halligan, quite frankly. But the reason why they bring this up, I think, is more than gratuitous. I think it's just to show that this was an attempt at a bad faith prosecution where they fired Eric Siebert, Mike Davis's friend from the Federalist Society, because he wouldn't prosecute the case.
Mike like that.
Well,
it's irrelevant here. I can see it's relevant to their malicious prosecution argument, which is happening in front of a different judge on a different motion. This is irrelevant to whether Halligan or whether only the AG or the district judges had the right to appoint Halligan. Go ahead, Mike.
I would say this: the evidence was so strong that a Democrat-controlled D.C. suburban grand jury brought indictments. The FedSoc attorney didn't have any balls, and so he got fired. And they brought in Lindsay Halligan, and she actually had balls. And so now,
FedSoc meaning Federalist Society.
Yeah, the Federalist Society. Look, I always say that my friends in the FedSoc are very good attorneys, but they're pussies, right? They have no balls. And we had to bring in, we had to get rid of this pussy attorney so he can go back to his FedSoc debate society where they wanted to debate the nation's decay. And then we had to bring in a real attorney with balls, Lindsay Halligan, who actually saw the evidence. And she brought the indictment. And look, they want to criticize her. They want to call her legally blonde. They want to say because Lindsay's beautiful, she must be stupid, right? And it's just complete horseshit. It's the same thing with Megyn. They think, oh, she's beautiful, so she must be a dumb attorney. These beautiful blondes will smoke these Democrat lawyers and these pussy FedSoc lawyers every day of the week.
I mean, this is good. This is good
Get
TV.
the repeated P word. Yes. Well, this is what we love about podcasting. You can say it like it is. And I mean, I see his point, though. Dave, whatever her objections are to Lindsay Halligan, I don't give a shit. I don't care. They're not appropriate. She was just trying to undermine her. And as you point out, in the first line of both opinions, dismissing Comey and dismissing James.
I mean, I think it's fair because when I first read it, I thought it was gratuitous. But I do think the reason why she included that was to have a public policy reason why this should not be refiled. It's even though she dismissed this without prejudice, which said you could refile it, but she's saying you shouldn't let an administration take advantage of the system that gives them an extra 6 months when from the beginning it was void. She was not qualified to be U.S. attorney, not appointed properly, and she got in and appointed for the sole purpose of getting in there just days before the deadline. That doesn't give you an ability to get 6 extra months.
How is she not qualified to be the U.S. attorney?
Because she wasn't confirmed by the Senate and she wasn't approved by the judges.
That's different. Qualified.
Well, neither was Siebert.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he was approved by the judges. He was approved by the judges.
But why do judges?
So what? You don't have to be approved by the judges for this rule.
Yes, you do. After 120 days, you do.
But that's the point. The statute is unconstitutional if you're giving federal judges the ability to appoint these executive branch interim officers, but not the attorney general. That shows that the statute, if that's how it was written, which it wasn't, but if that's how these Democrat judges are going to misinterpret this statute to keep power and protect their allies, it's unconstitutional. It's a violation of the separation of powers.
Doesn't the
I agree with
appointments clause talk about judges, though, Mike?
It does. It does. We talked about this before we went on air, but we also have Article 2 of the Constitution. So judges can appoint magistrate judges, for example, right? And they do that every day in the federal court system. They have the appointment power over U.S. magistrate judges that do pretrial work, do discovery. But I don't think U.S. district court judges have the Article 3 power to pick Article 2 interim officers over the objection of the President of the United States and the Attorney General of the United States.
All right, so we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we assume Bondi will appeal this. But by the way, we covered this on AM Update when it happened, but Bondi did try to cure whatever defect may be present by this Halligan not having been chosen by district judges by on October 31st issuing a memo saying, like, I ratify, what she's done. This judge said, nice try, but no cigar. Close, but no cigar. So they will appeal. The Fourth Circuit, I don't know how they'll find. I would have to put money, if I had to, on they'll affirm. It's a left-leaning court. And then they'll try to appeal it, the DOJ, up to SCOTUS. SCOTUS may not want to touch this. I have to tell you my analysis on this. If I were SCOTUS, I'm like, I can kill at least one of these things, the Comey indictment and case, in one fell swoop. And that'll save me from having to get involved on all of the substantive issues that are also going to come up my way via vindictive prosecution and all the other arguments that he's raising. They're like, it's a procedural error. They made it. I can get out of this scot-free. So I would not bank necessarily in the Supreme Court taking this. Because speaking of the P word, okay, we'll see. But if it's reversed and they say that the statute of limitations is extended, or if it's, let's say, even if they don't reverse it, if they at least find that the statute of limitations goes for 6 more months, Comey can be reindicted. Do we all agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, and Tish James, without question, can be reindicted, right?
Yes.
All right. The only question would be, who's going to reindict her? Because if Halligan actually is ixnayed, then, and it's because we need a judge to decide who's, this doesn't make any sense to me, Dave Aronberg. So let's just say Halligan's gone. Who's going to decide who's the interim acting U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia? The judges?
Yes. Judge Curry's order actually says it will be decided by the judge.
If that happens, then you've got some judge-selected U.S. attorney, and then you have Trump saying, okay, well, I want Mike Davis, let's say, to be the actual U.S. attorney for Eastern District of Virginia. And he has to go through Senate confirmation. And then you have all these Democrats who don't want to.
And Republicans. And Republicans.
Yeah, and Republicans.
Especially the FedSoc guys, yes.
They might not understand his brilliance the way we do, Dave. And so forever, they stand in his way. And as a result, the president doesn't get his choice. Even, this isn't a judgeship. This isn't a U.S. attorney position. Like, you see how this could be gamed so inappropriately by the Democrats if the ruling goes any way other than the way Mike and I think it should go.
Well, that's the issue, or the gaming seemed to be from the piggybacking on previous acting U.S. attorneys to get someone you wanted without having to go through the U.S. Senate. I see why you'd be upset about the judges doing it, and that could be a constitutional issue, but this statute has been around a long time. It has never been thrown out as unconstitutional, so maybe that's something the Supreme Court would take a look at. But Judge Curry's order said the judges will decide, and if the judges do appoint the next acting U.S. attorney, there's no way that acting U.S. attorney will prosecute either the Comey or the James case because they're a weak sauce. Although, if Trump gets to appoint his own, confirmed by the Senate, I think you'll see the return of at least the James case.
Can I ask this, Megyn? What happens when these Democrat activist judges in the Eastern District of Virginia pick their fake Republican as their U.S. attorney, the next FedSoc cuck? So then what happens when Pam Bondi and President Trump say, okay.
Was that C-U-C-K?
Yes, exactly. C-U-C.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what cuss words are acceptable on Megyn's show. We can say shits. We can't say the F word.
Pretty much all of them. Good. I got to be honest. You can say it all.
So here's the issue, Dave. What happens when this guy will not prosecute and Pam Bondi or President Trump say, okay, you're fired? Then what? Then the district judge is going to say, no, you're the president of the United States, but you don't get to fire your U.S. attorney because we're the all-powerful judges and we interpreted this statute to give us all the power over the U.S. attorney for the next 3 years?
We just saw this exact situation with Eric Siebert. He was appointed by the judges because he exceeded his 120 days, and then Trump effectively fired him. So yes, I would think the president could fire that person, and then the judges would have to reappoint someone else. So unless the president sends someone through the U.S. Senate.
I mean,
and then the Democrats, these Democrat judges can keep this going in perpetuity long past the 6 months to refile.
So who's playing deadline. The game, Dave? Who's playing the game? Is it President Trump and Pam Bondi who want a Republican who will actually do the job, or these Democrat judges who are obstructing this with their games?
Well, here's my question though. If they want a Republican U.S. attorney, they've got a Republican U.S. Senate. The last time I checked, why can't they just get the U.S. Senate to confirm them?
Because we have blue slips, which is a bullshit process where home state senators get a hand select the U.S. attorney who would prosecute them, the district court judge who would oversee their corruption trial, and the U.S. marshal who would escort them to prison. So President Trump can't pick a U.S. attorney in a lot of these blue states because these Democrat senators are refusing to return blue slips.
All you need is a majority in the Senate to change the rules, and the Republicans control the Senate. So if you want to change the rules, your friends in the Senate can do so.
That's a fair point, but there would be 100 senator revolts if they lost this power, and that it doesn't seem like it should go away, but it won't. But in the meantime, you can't have these Democrat judges misinterpreting federal statutes to give federal judges more power to protect their political allies. They're not the prosecutors.
Well, I have a question for you guys. I have a question for you. So, let's say it gets decided in a way that gives the government 6 months to refile against Comey and James, both of them. So I don't know whether Halligan is on the case in this scenario or she's not, but the government gets 6 more months to reindict them both. Do they have to go back before a grand jury again? Do you have to start at square one? Do you guys know the answer to that?
Yes. And Pam Bondi can go in as the attorney general and get this indictment, regardless of who the U.S. attorney is. And I think Todd Blanche, as the deputy attorney.
Are we a little scared about that? Are we a little scared about that, Mike? Because now the cases have had so much attention. You know, the alleged grand jury pool has been manipulated by nonstop media coverage about how this is retribution and so on. Are we a little worried about her ability to do it twice?
I would, if I were the attorney general, I would seek the indictment in the Richmond division of the Eastern District of Virginia and not the Alexandria division of the Eastern District of Virginia. I'd go somewhere where the people are a little bit less Democrat and less crazy. Sorry, Dave, that's what I would recommend if anyone ever listened to me.
You've got.
What do you think, Dave?
I think they want to get to the Southern District of Florida where Judge Aileen Cannon is. I think that's where they want to go.
Yes, that's exactly right. These are the appetizer indictments in Virginia. The appetizers got sent back. It's time to go for the main course down in Fort Pierce, Florida.
And right. That's what Mike's been saying all along, that there could be a sort of a grand conspiracy case coming out of Florida that's going to pull in all of these same actors. And the statute of limitations on that will not have run, not for Comey, not for any of these guys. I know you guys have got to run. So I thank you both so much. It's great to have you both. Dave, Mike, till the next time.
Thank you, Megyn.
Okay, I do want to tell the audience this. This came out this morning. Hold on. This is my update packet. There's so much material, as always, as you guys know, because we want to make sure that everybody knows exactly what's going on. And here's the interesting thing. There's new evidence now against Tish James. And this is very interesting. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and tell you about it. So you know this bank, it was like a mortgage fraud case against her. She cares about mortgage fraud. Don't let her tell you she doesn't. She's made a long, long history now of saying, doesn't matter whether there's a victim, doesn't matter whether there's a bank complaining or who lost any money. All that matters is you committed fraud in the abstract, and that will subject you to liability, in her case, potentially criminal liability. So those are her standards. We're just playing by them. She has argued, we did this on AM Update. Did you hear her denial? She's like, I remain fearless. Like, who calls themselves fearless? I am fearless. Like, a normal person says, I'm not afraid and I'm innocent. She's like, I am fearless, because of course she's got to be this like self-aggrandizing, like just kind of pathetic. I felt uncomfortable reading it. Like, Tish, a fearless person doesn't say, I am fearless. Just don't. Okay, so made me uncomfortable, but there she is. That's her whole thing. She's trying to turn this into like, I am woman, hear me roar. But she's in increasing amounts of trouble. So the MSM will tell you that there's absolutely no case against her. Au contraire, au contraire. We had the former CFO of Crazy Eddie. Remember that? The TV company, Crazy Eddie. He went to jail for a long time on felony fraud charges. And he has since spent, I think, the last 30 years or so working with the white hat on, trying to help people figure out when there is fraud and when there isn't, help the government figure it out in cases. And he took a hard look. He's not even a Democrat. Not even a Republican. He doesn't like Trump. But he took a look at this. And what he found was she's in a lot of deep doo-doo, because she represented one thing to the mortgage company about this home at issue in the Virginia case against her being her secondary residence, meaning she was getting it as a vacation home, basically. And then she was telling the IRS something very different, claiming it as an investment property, which has a different meaning. And let me just put it to you this way. If you get a second home, same as your first home, you can deduct things like your mortgage interest and I think your property taxes from what you pay. I'm not an accountant, but if memory serves, you can deduct those two things from your income taxes, right? Just to show like, I had to pay those things and I don't have to pay on them again. If you buy an investment property, one that you're going to rent out, one that potentially you're going to, resell, whatever, to make the money off of it, that you can deduct a lot more, actually, expenses. I think I wrote this down. Hold on. On an investment property, you can deduct mortgage costs, rental income, insurance, mortgage payments, property tax, and capital gains. So there's a lot that you can deduct on that kind of a property. And we knew when we had the CFO accountant from Crazy Eddie come on, convicted felon, he's quick to admit, he kind of uses it to show you that he does no fraud when he sees it. But he had pulled her IRS filings and he said she's been claiming this house, the one at issue that she told the mortgage brokers would be her secondary residence, as an investment property, which is a legally different animal, for years with the IRS. And he said that right there is going to show the jury, if it gets that far, that she was deceitful It can't be both at the same time. And it's very clear she did this. She classified them differently depending on what audience she was in front of. And then this comes out in the latest document that was filed against her by the DOJ. Letitia James moved to dismiss for vindictive and selective prosecution. And in response, the DOJ revealed new evidence against her, including a text message marked March 28th, 2024. And it was about how she's taking deductions on, again, what we know is actually an investment property, not a second home in Virginia, the one at issue in this case. And she texted him saying, this is to her accountant. Okay, her accountant. So this is an IRS filing. And she says, I do not want to take deduction. It looks suspicious, and I need to do everything according to the tax code. So she'd been taking the deduction for years, by the way, for years. The government represents James represented that the Perone residence, that's the one in Virginia, was an investment property in her income taxes, including taking deductions consistent with investment property, not a secondary residence, because that was more tax advantageous to her. These deductions demonstrate that James never occupied nor intended to occupy the Perone residence as the mortgage terms required. That's what she promised the mortgage lender she would do, and she didn't. Defendant continued taking the investment property deductions for several years until in 2024, she told her accountant, I do not want to take deduction. It looks suspicious, and I need to do everything according to the tax code. Now, March of 2024, you've got Donald Trump as the nominee, Joe Biden extremely weak. June of 2024, he would have his meltdown. November of 2024, Trump would be elected. But in March of 2024, the numbers were already spiraling. And there was serious questions about whether Joe Biden could win. And I think she's sensing there is the possibility of a Donald Trump return to office where somebody takes a closer look at my documents. And clearly, she realized that there was a massive inconsistency in what she was doing. One could argue a fraudulent inconsistency in what she was doing. And this will 100% come back to haunt her when her case gets refiled. We'll see if the throwing out gets affirmed on appeal. But even if they affirm the fact that Lindsay Halligan couldn't do this, she's getting reindicted. And by the way, the case against her has only gotten stronger. So a grand jury, I actually do have a lot of faith, will reindict her. And fearless or not, she's going to have her hands full with texts and documents like these. Is there someone on your list who's impossible to shop for? Here's a perfect gift, Cozy Earth. Their bamboo pajama set is a timeless classic made from soft, stretch knit bamboo that drapes beautifully and sleeps degrees cooler than cotton. It's lightweight, cozy, and perfect for holiday mornings or winter nights. And the bubble cuddle blanket, it's pure luxury. Ultra soft, textured, and designed for those snuggle by the fire moments. Best part, every Cozy Earth purchase is risk-free, backed by a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Try it. If you don't love it, return it, hassle-free. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays. This weekend only, from Thanksgiving Day through Cyber Monday, get 40% off at CozyEarth.com with code Megyn. That's code Megyn for 40% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention that you heard about Cozy Earth right here. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Here with me now, Benny Johnson, host of The Benny Show on X, YouTube, Insta, and all podcast platforms. Benny, great to see you again. We have got to talk about the mainstream media anchor, Katie Couric. Well, no one's media anchor right now, just has her own show, which not really doing that well.
She clearly
in any event,
produces from a closet in like her studio apartment.
And with absolutely no effort at hair or makeup.
Right.
I object. There has to be some effort for us all. Trust me. I don't look like this when I wake up either, but I make an effort because I'm on camera.
Yes, I have the best that Head and Shoulders 2-for-1 Costco special shampoo can provide.
all you guys have it so easy. I look over at Doug in the morning. He's at his sink. I'm at mine. I'm like, you wake up looking like that. It's just not
Can
fair.
I give you my favorite conspiracy theory really fast?
Yeah.
That all of the lib podcasters who've been, banished from their corporate media platforms that kept them so beautiful and powerful, almost like a Frankenstein's monster, well beyond their expiration date, that they're all morphing into the same person. So like Rachel Maddow and Keith Olbermann and Katie Couric, and they're all like looking the same.
And George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah, they're all becoming the same like androgynous, weird, neutered, frail, crunched up, like angry little vestibule of hate, and they're all doing. It's very bad. It's very bad what this stuff does. What this ideology does for you as a person, Ronald Dahl.
I really hope that everyone on our side is becoming Melania Trump.
That's exactly right.
That's what we deserve.
Yes.
To look more and more like her.
Who wants to look like RFK when they're 71? When they're 71, I mean, that is like real. That's what every man actually wants to look like.
Yeah.
And
he's very fit.
Yeah, I mean, clearly quite attractive to a number of young reporters. But
ice blue eyes.
Ronald Dahl has this great quote. I'm sorry to like go off on a tangent here, but he has this great quote about how no matter how beautiful you are, your ugly thoughts will begin to appear on the outside very quickly if you have ugly thoughts on the inside. And beautiful people remain beautiful well into their old age. We all have a grandmother, right, that we can like close our eyes, or like a godmother we can think about, and how beautiful they were even in their 80s, right? Because they were beautiful on the inside. And that twisted, warped, and cruel people filled with hate, that those people become twisted, warped, and cruel no matter how fleeting their beauty might be. They'll always become that on the outside. It'll manifest. And I think you can really
it's like those two ants and James and the Giant Peach.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, you spend enough time with Roald Dahl and you'll see what he does to the characters you really can't stand. They all want, like, look at Augustus Gloop. Veruca Salt was pretty, but not by the end of the movie. Yeah. You weren't feeling that when you watched her go down the educator.
Yeah, that's right.
Not even. Point taken. Yeah. I agree with you.
So it's like, that's what they're all becoming. And I find that fascinating to watch at scale. That now that like, instead of like going off into the sunset.
Here we have it.
Yeah. Instead of going off into the sunset.
Watch it.
Yeah.
This is Katie Couric. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just saying we all need to work on it, including you, Katie. I'm saying it from love. Along with Jen Psaki, who understands, because she actually still has her TV job, the hair and makeup can make a difference, but has decided to bring her least attractive self onto Katie's podcast. Maybe it's because they know literally nobody's watching, but I don't know. Here, look at this absurd exchange about the problem with today's media.
More and more of the questions in there are by sycophants, are by people who are not asking about news that the American people cares about, but they're asking about, I mean, literally a question has started more than once. Why is Trump in such good shape, right? Or they are, putting out conspiracy theories. They're people who, and they're getting a lot of the questions. There are some of the people who are in the press pools. This means that reporters who are there to cover MBS being at the White House, or to cover Zelensky being at the White House, or to ask these questions that Mary Bruce fortunately asked yesterday, there are fewer of them. And that is, you don't know that and see that unless you've lived there, but that's a huge, huge problem because it's becoming more of a Kremlin-esque press corps.
Right. And they've invited a lot of reporters from very right-wing media outlets.
Okay. Unlike the good old days prior to Trump, when the media was so hard on people like Obama and Biden. I'll give you the soundbite, Benny, then you take it out on the backside, SOT 24B.
Mr. President, what did you order?
Chocolate chip.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have any doubts that you're ready?
No.
Where do you get all this confidence?
How are you finding the job?
It's exhilarating. It's challenging.
What's the most frustrating part of the job? Do you take a day off?
I gotta tell you, when you walked in, I checked out. Is she wearing them? You're not wearing your Chucks today. No.
Trump has questioned Joe Biden's mental fitness and his cognitive skills. What do you want us to know about that?
I mean, Joe is working so hard every day.
And if you become first gentleman, what would that say about, defining the gender role and about masculinity?
When you watch the news, when you read the news, what do you think we get wrong? Or journalists who watch what you do, what's your advice for them about trying to stay as close to the truth in this world of lies? Is the relationship between the White House and the press corps now at least functional in ways it wasn't in the Trump years?
We hear he's lifting weights. What sort of weights is he lifting? Does he have a personal trainer?
But I can tell you, having traveled with him a fair amount, sometimes he's hard to keep up with.
Oh my God, Benny.
So 2 major takeaways from that, Megyn. One, that's not good TV. So let's just start at the basic level. You have to have people watching. So this kind of like toe-sucking sycophancy is not fun to watch. It's not entertaining to watch. Like on your show here, right? Like what would be the equivalent of that? Megyn, you're so beautiful. Oh, how is this so hard being so smart?
Tell us how smart you are.
How smart are you? Okay, like it was
You
so
could do the Tish
smart.
James interview.
Wow.
How fearless are you? Are you just as courageous and fearless as I
You
thought?
go, girl. Yeah, wow. Like that's no fun, by the way.
Snaps.
That's exactly right. Like that. First off, it's just terrible for the entertainment value, for the news value. None of that works as an actual product. So start with that. But then graduate into what is, without question, the single greatest fraud, the most dangerous fraud pulled on the American people, which Jen Psaki was the architect of, to her great and abiding shame, which was that Joe Biden did not suddenly develop stage 5 pancreatic cancer metastasized to his bone, which all experts say is a death sentence. And that is a horrible thing. That's an awful prostate cancer. Yes. Yes, prostate cancer metastasized to his bones, which takes, according to medical experts, 12 years or more. They knew that Joe Biden had this terminal illness. They knew that he was suffering from it. He was most likely being prescribed an enormous amount of medication to deal with it. And that's what made Joe Biden so zoinked out of his brain, falling directly on his ass in front of military graduations, right? Like this was one of the largest scale lies ever perpetrated on the American people. And that's a long list to be at the top of. And so Jen Psaki was the major proponent and purveyor of that sinister lie that put this diseased and crippled old man into the hardest job in American history at the time when he was getting people killed with these Afghanistan withdrawals, when he was crippling our nation with open borders and so on, being taken advantage of because he was a dying man. It is indefensible. It is immoral. It is sick and wrong. And for Jen Psaki, of all people, to have a bloody cheek and to go on there and harp about reporters not asking tough questions or the press secretary not getting tough questions when she herself was on a level of Kremlin Soviet propaganda, encouraging not only Joe Biden to run again, when who knows how long he has to live. We know he's in end-stage cancer treatment right now. So what was the goal there, Jen? Was the goal there for Joe Biden to die in office and then Kamala to take the reins? How sick and dark and twisted are you people? Get ye to a nunnery, to a church. Like get down on your knees and pray for forgiveness for what you've done to the American people. That's clearly the worst and darkest thing that I hopefully will ever see in American politics.
No, it's not.
That you took it.
It's not. I have something.
You took advantage of this
top
poor
of the
old man.
hour. But no, so Jen Psaki is living in La La Land, of course, if she thinks that Trump is the one getting sycophant questions as opposed to her old boss. When the White House press corps had press briefings under her and her successor, Karine Jean-Pierre, the only hard questions that were asked for the most part were questions like, the Republicans are arguing X. Can you respond? Right? Like that's as adversarial as they get because they wanted to tee up, right, Jen Psaki or Karine Jean-Pierre into ripping on the right half of the country. Now, at best, under Trump, which has a few more open doors to people who are open-minded to Trump, now you might get a more fair and balanced question from a right-wing perspective, right? Like, what is it that those 6 lawmakers did wrong in the video, as opposed to, how dare you threaten death for innocent U.S. lawmakers, right? So that's why he has more fair and balanced reporters in there now, because he's like, maybe I could get some fair questions from 1 or 2 in between getting abused by everybody else that's in there. That's what Caroline Levitt goes through every day. She wants to pretend that in the good old days when she was there, it was universally tough questions for Biden, and she was just super deft at handling them. We got a minute to break. Benny, go.
Well, I mean, of course, what you want is you want a reporter suite from a different perspective, and you don't want one ideological bloc to be asking questions, because that's not the American people. We aren't one ideological bloc. Megyn, you were just on a massive tour around the entire country. You saw all of these different audiences. You saw the different applause lines. Even inside of this ecosystem, there is such a diversity of opinions. And you spoke with people and you heard the boos and the laughs and the applause, and it's different everywhere. And so you need those perspectives to be represented. And the best way to represent that is to ask a question. Just hearing your perspective asked is a pressure release valve on society. And so it's a good thing what Trump's doing.
Right. That's not how they see it. All right, I've got more for you. You got to stay tuned for this. It's next, top of the hour. The Black Friday buy one, get one free sale is here at All Family Pharmacy, and it's a big one. From November 22nd through December 2nd, when you buy ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, or mebendazole, you will receive another one for free. Over the past few years, many families have learned how important it is to be prepared, to have options, and to take control of their own health. All Family Pharmacy makes that process simple, transparent, and accessible without the confusion or roadblocks that people are tired of dealing with. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Megyn, place your order online, and a licensed physician will review it. Once it is approved, your medication is shipped directly, privately, and securely to your home. The Black Friday event lasts for 1 week only, and supplies are limited. When it's gone, it's gone. If you value preparation, clarity, and having real choices for your family's health, consider allfamilypharmacy.com/Megyn before December 2nd and secure your Black Friday buy one, get one free deal now. Welcome back to the Megyn Kelly Show. You guys have been so supportive. It was so fun meeting you all on the tour. So fun. Absolutely loved it. And we've gotten tons of great feedback on our Megyn Kelly merch, which we just started. Super excited to announce we now have some special items available just in time for the holidays. So head on over to Shop Megyn Kelly, Shop, Megyn Kelly, to see what's new. There are some great cold weather staples like cozy hats to keep you warm during the winter months. As you can see, we offer several different colors and logos. Personally, I love the Devil May Care one. And I am here for you ladies who are always cold in the winter like me. I made sure that our store is stocked with a woman's fleece vest that you can use to layer up over shirts or under your coat. Because when they first brought the vest back, let me tell you, it was like more for a dude, where it was like straight up and down. And that's very nice for a man, but women like things a little more tapered. Do we not, ladies? I don't care what your size is. You want things a little more tapered. We like to give ourselves a waist. What my 3 children took away, a little stitching can bring back. And I've got you covered in this very cute vest. We also have a no BS, no fear zip pullover for men too. No waist, just manly. You'll like that. And there's some other fun surprises for fans of all ages. This could be a fun gift that your spouse or loved one or somebody whose house you're going over to, a friend, will not be expecting. Like we got customized playing cards, aprons. It was tough for me to part with mine. Hoodies, coffee cups, some great little things. So anyway, just in time for Christmas, go and check it out. From now through this Saturday, we're going to get in on the Black Friday madness. Enter the code MEGANSALE, and that'll get you 20% off your holiday merchandise. For our YouTube audience, you can use the QR code on your screen to link right to shopmegankelly.com. I already put my order in, and next week I will share a few of my favorite pieces with you. I got something coming your way, Ben & Johnson. I'm sure you're going to love it. It does not have any cinching. You do not need cinching.
Well, I was going to say that's the perfect vest for David Muir of ABC News. It's perfect, Megyn. He's probably your number one customer right now.
He's probably on there.
If you know, you know.
Cinching. Tighter.
Megyn, I just want to, it is your show, so I just want to give you an opportunity to explain that joke because it is absolutely one of my favorite rants of yours in history.
Oh, the David Muir thing?
That was the biggest.
Is that what you mean?
That was the biggest cinch that ever cinched.
Oh,
the rain jacket?
It was unbelievable. So
rain jacket.
Okay, so not only did it get caught, no, it wasn't a rain jacket. It was a fake fireman's jacket.
Yeah.
He was pretending like your little boy and mine that he was a little fireman with his little reflective, stripes on it. And then he made the mistake of turning to gesture to something. And we all saw the clothespins on the back of his fireman's jacket at a disaster scene. It was like massive floods. People were dying. And he was worried about his waistline. And he did it again, Benny, because we caught him out in the field at yet another disaster wearing literally I don't think his tight black t-shirt would have fit me. He got like my size and put it on his man body. And it looked normal in one of the shots. And then when he got to the anchor shot, it looked all super cinched again. The man loves showing off his teeny tiny waistline.
What is that exactly? I mean, I guess he's just trying to delay the inevitable androgynous morph into the Rachel Maddow archetype, which, by the way, we didn't get a chance to say. Like the clip of Katie Couric and Jen Psaki, they're like indistinguishable, right? It's like they're all coalescing into the same hive mind, the same person, the same like sort of hermaphroditic, like sad, crippled old person. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's wonderful to see you on the road, because I was watching those clips and the energy was incredible in those stadiums. And I know that it's not on the slate and the suite that your producer sent to me to talk about. But if you don't mind, can I ask a question on here? Like, that seemed like a spiritual experience. It was wonderful to see. It's wonderful to see that kind of energy. It's kind of the turning point energy that we get at these large stadium events. What's your biggest takeaway from that tour? What spiritual moment are we in as a country right now, since you've been out, with the people?
I mean, my biggest takeaway was how healing it was for us all to be together. It wasn't just me with the audience. It was the audience with the audience. People need to be with others. And when you can be surrounded by thousands of others with shared values, it's church. It's church on steroids. Like, so many people, for example, in Arizona and California, which were the last couple stops on the tour, had flown in from Washington State. One family had flown in from the UK. A woman wrote me a very nice note about it in my show mail. Like, people came from all over. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to see the show and they wanted to see the guests and so on. But like, they also wanted to be together. And so sitting there, getting all the inside jokes, laughing with one another, rolling our eyes at the ridiculous left, it's therapeutic. And so while the right is having like some infighting right now, Benny, and they're important infights, like they do need to be settled, like the stuff on Israel, there's something shifting in the party and it's going to have to go through this and settle wherever it needs to settle. It was a long time coming, frankly. Net, we're still together. Net, yes. Nobody who's having these fights is going to vote for a Kamala Harris. They're all going to vote for a Donald Trump or a Marco Rubio, and I think for a JD Vance too, even though the neocons, he won't be their first choice. But they're not going to vote for an AOC over him. So we're in the same family. We're having a family squabble, and it matters. But the big picture is what really matters. And that's, I think, what I felt more than anything. Like, the audience felt that. Like, that night I had Tucker. The next night I had Ben. Half the audience, was on Tucker's side. Half the audience was on Ben's side. Whatever, rounding my numbers. But they all still came. They all still wrote letters. They got fired up about one and maybe not the other. But we're all still part of the same family, and I know your viewers are part of the same family too. And it was great for me too. It's great for them. And honestly, like, I was struck just on a separate level by the vast diversity in the audience, Benny. Mm-hmm. Like, in this realm, you don't really know exactly who your audience is. Like, when I was on Fox, I knew exactly what the key demos were. I knew how many I had over 55. I knew how many I had, who are true senior citizens. I knew how many young people I had watching the show every night. And they would break it down for you demographically in terms of men and women, race. You could find anything out you wanted, thanks to Nielsen and some other metrics. And now you don't really have that. So it's like amazing. And my takeaway is, it's everybody. It's like, it's young people, it's middle-aged people, it's old people, it's men, it's women, it's people who have money, it's people who are working class, it's truck drivers, it's doctors, it's judges, it's ditch diggers, like, it's, you name it. Like, I was very proud of what an array there was in terms of socioeconomic status, And also, I would say, maybe we have, at the tour, we had slightly more female attendance than we did male, but like tons and tons, thousands and thousands of men who bought tickets and come and who've been watching me. They tell me for 25 years, it's crazy numbers. Anyway, it's good too. And I'll give you one other thing. Sorry, I'm really rambling, but you and I both know in our business, your primary interaction with the world can be on X, which I love and is my primary news source, but also is a disgusting, filthy, toxic place where you get nothing but vitriol. That's what we all sign up for. Yes. You go to Insta for the niceness. You go to X for the nastiness. And if you spend too much time there, you can think that's real life. And so getting out and seeing like a bunch of people who really listen to the show and actually know me, unlike the fake internet shit. Yes. Like people that spend 10 hours with me a week, they know me, and interacting with them is so uplifting and just a good grounding reminder of what's real and not to listen to like the nasty haters. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, totally. And not like I'm here to give your producers or the people who put your tour on advice. I'm not smarter than them, but as a man, can I give you a suggestion just to increase male attendance at these events? If you want to increase male attendance at your next tour, then all you need to do is just have one scheduling mistake. And you simply need to schedule Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson on the same night. And trick one of them, okay? And then welcome them both on stage at the same time, and then just watch what happens. Surprise. Right? Yeah. Put the octagon up, okay? Do the cage match, and just let it happen, right? I think that's what everybody wants, in fact.
I would have loved to. And trust me, Vinny, I tried very hard to convince them to talk behind the scenes. I offered to do a private coffee in which I moderated. Obviously, I offered the show if they wanted to do that, but I didn't want to commercialize it. It was really just truly about trying to find a way where they could, I don't know, get to detente.
Private nicotine pouch session.
One. Yeah, neither one is in that headspace right now.
It's too bad. That's kind of what Charlie always did, right? Is he always he always brought these forces together, like the Infinity Stones, and broke the gravitational incompatibility, and then shoved guys like Elon Musk and Trump together, which is still miraculous. RFK Jr. and Trump together, which is still miraculous. Sort of like bridging the populist, nationalist wings.
Charlie shoved me and Trump together. He shoved me and Trump together. That's right. That's where I first saw Trump. We'd already made up years earlier, but I hadn't seen him in like 3 years until Charlie said, come meet him backstage at the Turning Point event. And I did, and everything was fine. And then we had an interview right after that, like thanks to Charlie.
You talk about how there's infighting in the party right now. And everybody, that's obviously the headlines because they want to rip MAGA to pieces. On some levels, they've been successful with like the Epstein op. And we can talk about that. But I want to talk about it as, in its totality. There's this incredible map, and I don't have it immediately printed out in front of me, that shows the ideological spectrum of the left and right. It's pretty famous. This gets posted on X all the time. And it shows how narrow the ideological perspective of the left has become because they practice true intellectual purity, like true proper fascistic thought policing occurs on the left. And so the blue circle of what is ideologically acceptable on the left is teeny. And then it maps the right. And this is a peer-reviewed scientific study. And it shows something that is at least 10x or 15x bigger that shows the various nodes of right-wing thought and ideology and what is acceptable inside of our space. And as you just demonstrated with your tour, there are so many different ideas and ideologies that are roundly considered part of the right. And Thanksgiving is just a couple hours away, right? So I liken it to a Thanksgiving table with your aunts, right, who have drained an entire box of wine, making dinner. And they've argued over
hashtag goals.
Yes, they've argued. That's exactly right. That's right. A whole jug of Franzia is an empty jug of Franzia is rolling around, and the boxes of wine are empty of Chardonnay, and you're like, we're cooked. And the aunts at your Thanksgiving dinner are going to scream, and they're going to throw things, and they're going to argue, and it might spill out onto the front yard. But in the end, you're all family. And in fact, you're treating yourself like that because you're family. We wouldn't treat a stranger like that. Some things you can only say to your family. And in fact, you're a friend and a brother when you do give hard truths to your friends. Like those are the kind of, those are the people who really are your friends, right? Not the people who abandon you or don't give you good advice or let you keep wasting your life or making mistakes or harming yourself. It's actually your friends who give you the tough truths. And so I don't mind this whole MAGA infighting thing. I don't mind it at all. I view it as a healthy family crucible Thanksgiving dinner table that's messy and entertaining and exciting. And it's because we have so much ideological adherence to free thought and free association, which is our First Amendment, damn it. And that's what we all agreed on, right? We all agreed that we have free association and that above all else, we have the capacity to disagree with each other without hating each other, because that's evil, and without killing each other, which is what the left has now resorted to. So if you want to see what like the opposite of my opinion is, it's not people who I disagree with, who have ugly ideas or naughty thoughts, or opinions that I don't like, because that's actually the point of this country. The opposite of my ideology is somebody who picks up a gun and kills someone to end the argument.
Yeah.
And that's actually what we're fighting against. And Megyn, I'd like to just realign our party into recognizing that this is good, that we can all debate and disagree with each other. The best ideas will rise to the top. I'm sure you were surprised at various applause lines that were spoken at your tour, various boos, that people got. It's a wildly dynamic party. What didn't happen at your tour is nobody got killed, right? Like for disagreeing. And that's America. What the left wants is the people who they disagree with to actually get harmed and killed. Anna Navarro on The View, bragging, in fact, that Charlie got killed for his opinions, and that good, in fact. What an evil witch and monster. What a monstrous ideology. But they're going out and they're saying it, right? They're celebrating this result because that's what they believe and that's what they want. So it's good for us to paint a picture of the differences, and this is the Thanksgiving that you want to go to on the right.
Yeah, I love that. And honestly, like I'll double down on it, because I've been having a Twitter war with Mark Levin, and before that with this guy Abe Greenwald of the Commentary magazine, and many others who have just decided I'm against them because I won't disavow Tucker. I would take Mark Levin or Abe Greenwald or any of these people who are just very, very pro-Israel and are mad at me over the Tucker thing any day of the week over this crew. I'm going to show you a soundbite. It's going to disturb you. You haven't seen it because it just hit. It's fucking awful. It's Joy Reid and those two hateful hens. I don't know what their names are. One I think is named Jennifer. She's all over the internet only saying hateful things about Republicans, but this one is particularly vicious about Erika Kirk. Watch this.
Motivates them. So they can't have the successor to MAGA be the guy with the brown Hindu wife. They're also Christian nationalists. That ain't gonna work. That's why he's throwing his wife under the bus. Poor Usha. Or she's in on it, right?
And she's playing slap and tickle with Erika Kirk's the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Yeah, she's like in her Tammy Faye era.
Okay. Holding on the back of his head and rubbing on his head.
Some weird shit.
Baby. Don't do that to Jason. I'm gonna start thinking something's going on. Why are you holding the back of his head? I'm like, you're not doing that right thing. You're supposed to be a widow. You in leather pants?
Yeah.
That's not widow wear.
Could you imagine if...
Wouldn't it be the most perfect fairy tale, MAGA fairy tale?
Yeah.
If he finally sees the light that he needs a white queen instead of this brown Hindu? I mean, I'm not saying that's happening.
Right.
Or maybe that Usha's not even in on it. Maybe she's whatever. But that's one entrant. Another entrant is frankly Donald Trump Jr. If he can, keep it together.
This is so sick. She's speculating who Erika is going to be with. She's going to break up JD's marriage. She's going to wind up with Don Jr. She's not wearing the appropriate clothes in Joy Reid's view for a widow, and the nerve to get out there. That other woman, she's in her Tammy Faye era. Fuck you, you absolute disgusting evil cretin. She is in mourning. You've seen her only at very public appearances, like when she accepted the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Last night she did as a favor to me because I've been out there for Charlie and she knew Charlie and I were friends. And yeah, when she goes on camera, terrible, awful, unknown podcast lady, she puts on makeup because the Klieg lights are on her, because the cameras are on her. And if she didn't, you'd be judging that too. So yeah, she's beautiful and she's used to looking nice on camera. And that's to her credit that she's able to pull it together. She cried the entire night, Benny Johnson, but through our interview the other night, she was holding it together, but she was nonstop tears. But she looked beautiful. And these 8 hateful witches hold it against her and want to speculate about how it's an ultimate MAGA fantasy for JD to break up with the brown one and wind up with Erika Kirk. What kind of hate? Give me the divided, angry right any day of the week.
Yeah. And there's a difference. The difference actually is in the data. I mean, what you saw there, you're exactly right to call it hateful, evil. It's demonic to laugh at and speculate on a widow who just had her children orphaned and her husband killed on a live stream. And the world saw it murdered in some of the most heinous act of political violence in our generation. I mean, tantamount effectively to our own JFK assassination. And this is what happened. Mm-hmm. And so now they're harassing and making fun of, our era's Jacqueline Kennedy.
Yeah.
And what does it say about you when you can do something like that? How could you possibly resort to doing that? First off, being a parent, you're a parent. I'm a parent of young children. Being a parent of young children is the most excruciating and most difficult and toughest job on earth. And then to celebrate the widowing of that woman and the orphaning of those children, you're evil. You're a demon, in fact. That's just demonic activity. And I can say that as a Christian, not as a pejorative, but as something that is doctrinal from a Christian perspective, because you can see actually the fruits of Satan in people. You can know them by their actions. In fact, you can judge people by their fruits. Now, let me explain, Megyn, why I know that the right won't do this. Because as we talked about earlier in this show, Joe Biden has terminal cancer. Now, I have an audience. We have 20 million subscribers across multiple platforms. We track very closely sentiment of our audience for certain topics. I didn't find a single member of my audience celebrating Joe Biden's imminent death. No one. I, as a matter of fact, prayed for him live on the show. I prayed for him. Now, I think Joe Biden's the worst president in American history. I think I've spent as much effort as I possibly can to make sure that he doesn't become president again, or that we hampered as much of his time as president as possible. I don't like Joe Biden. I don't want Joe Biden anywhere near power. I didn't once laugh, giggle, or snort at Joe Biden becoming a widow or his children losing their father, because I can separate the human element of this, the spiritual element of this, my soul, right? As a person, I want that to be reflective of Christ. That's my religion. I can separate that from the politics. The left can't do that. Why, Megyn? And it's very important to understand why. The left can't do that because they don't believe in God. According to Gallup, 93% of Republicans believe in God or a God. Less than 60% of Democrats believe in God. So you can just kind of round number that to about half of Democrats don't believe in God. If you don't believe in God, then you don't believe that we were created in God's image. This is the first book of Genesis. This is like the doctrinal creation story shared across religions, that we are created by God and we have a purpose and we have value higher than the animals, that we're created different, and that all human life is precious no matter who you are, where you come from, what your skin color is, and that it is a moral evil to take that life or to celebrate the taking of that life. And that, Megyn, is the ball game. That actually explains these differences. If you don't believe in God, if you have that hatred in your heart, if you don't believe that human life is precious and all life is effectively just a power struggle, then you're just simply going to want power. And if it takes death to get there, then you're just like all the other Marxists who've killed 100 million people this last century. Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, and Joseph Stalin. You're the same as all of them. And here's the final thing I'll say on this, Megyn. They want us to hate them because that means they win. When hatred inspires more hatred through name calling or sneering or laughing at orphaned children, when they can pull you down to their level, when Satan can tell you to eat the apple and you take a bite, and you then begin to reflect the same hatred they have, they win. That's why they call you an anti-Semite. That's why they call you a racist. That's why they call you Hitler. Is it because I'm Hitler? No, it's because they want me to hate them. They make absurdities. They make these straw man arguments, and they come at you, okay, come at your family, they come at your children to bring you down to their level. And if they can do that, they win. That is why critically in this Christmas season, Megyn, we have to remember as Christians, and we have to remember as the moral movement that we are, the 93% of our party that believes in God and believes in the foundations of this country. We have to not let them win by welcoming that hatred into our hearts. And they're working overtime to get us to hate them. We must respond with,
and some of us are weaker than others. Like
we have to respond with love. We have to respond with love and laughter and charity and joy. And there's nothing evil hates. And there's nothing evil hates more than us laughing in their faces, living out our lives with our children, with our loving families, with the things they will never have. And that destroys them. They're miserable and we're happy. That means we've won.
Mm-hmm. What you say is very interesting to me because my audience knows I've been on this faith journey now for quite some time, but went into overtime after Charlie's death. And I've been watching a lot of debates involving and also reading books by William Lane Craig, who is this extremely smart man who's on our side, who runs around doing atheist debates, with Christopher Hitchens and other doubters, who's got like he's brilliant, he's very well educated, and he's studied this and written about this for his entire life, trying to find like the historical evidence of Christ and engaging in like full-throated debates about like cosmology, not cosmetology, that's makeup, and how it really does support the Christian beliefs, not the atheist beliefs. And one of the points he often makes is that if there's no God, then there's no morality. There's no morality. There's no hardcore foundation for good and evil, for judging actions. And what you were just saying dovetails perfectly into that. Like his predictions are about like a society where there is no God. You're talking about a faction, a political group that has no God. Yes. And it's leading to the same result. One would be worldwide in his, worst case scenario. And yours is a party-wide situation for a disturbing number of people who are on the left. Not all, some are faithful, but a disturbing number who have no God in their life and have lost all tether to good and evil, to like a fundamental level of decency, yes, and honor, kindness. I do not get the absolute ripping apart of a new widow whose main goal every day is to make sure her children are okay because their father was shot to death 2 months ago. This isn't 5 years ago, or maybe it would make its way into a joke here or there on a late night show. Whatever. It's just part of the national healing process. This is 2 months. It's raw. Everyone's still in mourning, especially the Kirk family. And she was in the center of their target as their bullseye as they laughed at her.
That one podcaster there in the clip you played, her name's Jennifer Horn. Nobody is quite sure where the hell she came from. I don't really know who she is, but I know that she went viral in the weeks after Charlie's assassination by saying that that was a warning and that if Democrats don't get on board with fighting MAGA, that's going to happen to you. And they're just out and out saying it, right? So the top law enforcement official in Virginia now is somebody who wants to kill Republican babies. Like kill their children, right? Because they're little fascists. Yes. They're just being the mask is off, right? So the mask is off. They're telling us who they are. We have to believe them. And more importantly, Megyn, we have to be able to counter this. We have to accept what this is and to be able to present the counter argument so that this doesn't continue to warp and shape the way that politics is done in America with assassination culture. You know, it's totally and completely evil. It's something that's really raw.
Crazy. What a crazy term you just used, but you're not wrong. Assassination culture. It's like it's a thing now after Luigi.
So yeah, just one final thought. The Constitution. So it's like the Civil Rights era, right? Is like the favorite thing for these people. Okay, that was like the crowning achievement. Yeah. How do you get that without? I mean, they point back to our founding documents, right, about America's. You know, that's what the founders would have wanted, but they never look at the words. All men are what, Megyn? All men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. If you take God out of the founding documents, then you have no America. You have no reason to free the slaves. You have no reason for the civil rights era or for women's suffrage or for any of it, in fact. If you remove God from the equation, as the left does and is constantly on the march to do, then their ideology becomes pure fascism. There is no America founding without that. Yes, that's right. So that is foundationally, yes, all men created equal, endowed by their creator. If you remove that, then you're just left with totalitarianism.
I just want to show you, I asked Erika Kirk, for what it's worth, about that moment where she hugged JD. Yeah. I mean, she hugged me just as warmly and closely.
Right. She's a hugger.
And then she's a total hugger, which we love. I mean, honestly, I loved it. I felt like I was next to God. That's how it feels when you're around her. Like you're just with somebody who's got a more evolved spiritual presence and connection with the Almighty. Yes. Something to aspire to. Anyway, here she is talking about the JD hug, and then on the back end, we'll play the one where the follow-up. We'll just watch. Forgive me. Did you see people didn't understand the hug that you and JD had? They went to the weirdest places, Erika.
Oh my gosh. You guys, please. So for those of you who know me, I hug is
yes,
like.
You're an intense hugger.
Whoever
it's awesome.
is like hating on a hug needs a hug themselves. I will give you a free hug anytime you want a hug. My love language is touch, if you will. But seriously, that hug. So I will give you a play-by-play. Walking, they just played the emotional video. I'm walking over, he's walking over, I'm starting to cry. He says, he's so proud of you. And I say, God bless you. And I touch the back of his head. Anyone who I've hugged that I have touched the back of your head when I hug you, I always say, God bless you. That's just me. If you want to take that out of context, go right ahead. Again, that to me shows that you need a hug more than anyone else. So if anyone...
They were acting like you touched the back of his ass.
I feel like I wouldn't get as much hate if I did that versus...
Watching people turn on you has been one of the most unexpected, strange, terrible things since he died.
You know what, Megyn? And I know you get this because you have a thick skin and a soft heart. The thing is that the more that people, and it gets outlandish, more and more crazy as time goes on, because there's just a void that apparently needs to be filled. But I'm okay with the world not understanding me. I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with I don't want to look like the world. We're as Christians, we're called to be in the world, not of it. And if they could understand me, then I'm not doing something right.
She's so evolved, Benny. That's exactly the right answer.
Yes, she is.
You just said it. You're evolved too. I'm the only one who's still here in the sewer plant thinking about what I can do to Jennifer.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, President Trump famously goes on after Erika Kirk forgives her husband's assassin and goes, I hate my enemies. I don't love my enemies. I hate them, and everyone laughed, right? I hate them. And everyone can experience that. And actually, doctrinally, from a Christian perspective, that's totally aligned. And I know that a lot of people don't study this, and I'm no theologian at all, right? I'm just a guy who's a simple Christian. I just read my Bible and I try to understand it. I call my pastor, and he tries to knock some sense into me. And but listen, first off, that is aligned, and it's very important to understand this, to separate the two. So, for your own soul, you're supposed to forgive people, and you're supposed to love them and practice the Beatitudes, the exact inverse of what the world tells you to do. And that is Christianity. That's Christendom. That's us living it out. But there's a verse in Romans 13, that says that the governments and the law of the nations is established by God, and he gives them the sword to wield, not for the good men, but for the terror of evil men.
Yes.
And it is good.
That's the role I want.
That's a New Testament. That's not Old Testament. That's New Testament. And it is calling for us as a moral and good people to make sure that our government has the sword to punish evil, to make sure that they live in, not just live in fear.
Yes, I'm feeling better.
That they live in terror, actually. That evil people should should live in terror from a government of good men. And so you have to ask the question, and this is the final, as I get older, I'm pushing 40. As I get older, I'm realizing this. As I raise my own kids, as I see the world around me, I'm realizing something, Megyn, that it can all be boiled down to one question, critical for our ruling class, which is there a God? And do you think you're God? Are you God? Or is there actually a higher power above what we're all doing? And those who believe in that higher power totally structure their lives differently, entirely.
Yep.
The tax don't work, the ad hominems don't work, the pejoratives don't work, the deplatforming or the jailing, it doesn't work. You're totally aligned. And that's why you can still see joyful audiences in spite of good and bad things happening to our movement all the time. On the left,
And also, here's another thing. They also understand as Christians that persecution is part of it.
Of course, yes. In fact, it's something that is a mark of honor. It's a badge of honor. When you are persecuted, the Christian church is a church and not completely smote because of a martyrdom. A man named Stephen, who was the first martyr. And that's what actually inspired Christianity, that him dying, Stephen getting killed for his belief, let people know, wait a second, this isn't just an old story. This is something people believe in because people don't die for a lie. Charlie Kirk died not for a lie, for the truth. Charlie Kirk died doing what he loved, which was telling the truth on campus. And he died for truth. And that's why we've seen this incredible moment. I still don't know exactly how to diagnose it, and I never will. You were live on stage in front of a massive arena with Erika Kirk. What was that exactly? What was the spiritual energy there? I don't know, but that's the power of martyrdom.
It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming. That is another one of the points as I go through all of these books, so many books. I was talking to Frank Turek about it backstage after Erika, that in favor of believing in the resurrection, believing that Jesus was Christ, which is no man will die for a lie. And the disciples who were put to death after Jesus was crucified and came back, and they told everyone about it. They said what they witnessed, that they saw him. They saw him. It wasn't just like he was missing from the grave. They actually saw him, and they were killed for it. And no man would willingly go to his death. Like, these were Jews who were going to be killed for saying this blasphemy that Jesus was Christ and that he'd come back. And they went to their deaths willingly, following his example. So anyway, I know everybody already knows this, but I am on my own little faith discovery at a ripe old age in life, Benny, and it's been very helpful to me. Very helpful. All right, stand by. What's also helpful is to pay my bills with my beloved advertisers. I'm going to do that now, and we're going to come back and we can talk about this ridiculous group of 6, these Democrat 6 who want our military to listen to them, not the commander in chief.
Perfect.
Stand by. There are a lot of politicians that should be getting coal in their stockings for Christmas, but Birch Gold thinks, as a smart planner, you deserve silver. That's why with every $5,000 you purchase between now and December 22nd, Birch Gold will send you an ounce of silver, which is up over 60% this year. See, smart people diversify and have a hedge. That's why you should consider Birch Gold. With the rates cut now from the Fed, in 2026, the dollar will likely be worth less. And what happens if the AI bubble bursts? Let Birch Gold Group help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And for every $5,000 you buy, you will get an ounce of silver for your stocking or for your kids. Just text MK to 989898 to claim your eligibility for this offer. Again, text MK to the number 989898 today, because Birch Gold's free silver with qualifying purchase promotion ends on December 22nd. Message and data rates may apply.
I said something that was pretty simple and non-controversial, and that was that members of the military should follow the law. And in response to that, Donald Trump said I should be executed. I should be hanged. I should be prosecuted. I think it says a lot more about him than it says about me. He doesn't want accountability.
I'm not sure it was quite that non-controversial. Welcome back to the Megyn Kelly Show. My guest today, Benny Johnson. That was Senator Mark Kelly, husband of Gabby Giffords, former astronaut and member of the military. And he is suggesting that he did absolutely nothing wrong in the so-called Seditious Six video, in which they made very clear their opinion, advising U.S. troops that if they receive an illegal order from Donald Trump, they should ignore it. It came out of nowhere. No one knew exactly what they were talking about. They haven't been very good at identifying exactly what they meant. But now there's an investigation that's been opened by the Pentagon into Mark Kelly because he was in the military and the others were CIA or intel services. And so he's still within their jurisdiction, and they're considering a court-martial because he's inserting himself in the chain of command between the commander-in-chief and his troops. What do you make of it?
I have 4 little children at home, 5, 3, 2, and 8 months old. And so my home has a tendency for disorder, Megyn. Now, my wife and I have have disagreements, clearly. You know, you always have that in any healthy relationship. And we sort those out as best we can. But there's one thing that we have total and complete agreement on, which is when an order goes down from one of us, we are the commanders in chief of our household. Those children must follow orders. Otherwise, the house will immediately and inextricably entropy. Everything will fall apart. If my wife is undermining me or I'm undermining my wife, if she says no dessert or you've had enough candy and I'm sneaking them candy, if she says pick up your toys and I'm helping them make a mess, then things are going to spiral out of control and it's going to happen quickly. And everyone can understand that. Parents get that innately. I know that you are a parent, obviously, also of kids. I think they're relatively
16,
young.
14, and 12.
There you go. Okay, so you remember these days. They weren't that long ago when things could really fly off the rails. And so everyone gets that. You know, we all understand that. But all the more so if my kids had nukes, right? Like all the more so if my kids were in charge of nuclear submarines or Abrams tanks or F-22 Raptors or a bunch of deadly weapons. All the more so if like a stray bullet fired from one of my kids could start a world war, because we have a base in every damn country on earth, right? And we have outward looking bases in countries that hate us. And so one wrong move from my children, you know, could potentially plunge the world into nuclear war. That's of course terrible. And that is why the military has such such tight controls on standard order and on following orders and processes in order to sift out and to punish illegal orders. So those already exist. When you have members of Congress that are using their position in the federal government as partisan Democrats, brandishing their military service and then instructing our children to disobey their parents, that's not order. That's going to lead to a nightmarish scenario. That's going to lead to an insurrection. It's going to lead to civil war. It's going to lead to world war. It's going to lead to something terrible.
They're endangering us and our troops without a thought for it. They only want to look like political grandstanders, like they're tough, like they're taking on Trump.
Yes, of course. But they're defying the law, and I'm really in favor of the court-martial of Mark Kelly. I'm in favor of more harsh punishments. I want more harsh punishments, please, like from the Trump administration on a slate of issues, whether it's the pipe bomber or whether it's Epstein files, you know, or whether it was the bad actors, James Comey and John Brennan and so on. You need to have, much like in a household, you need to have disciplinary action to prevent bad behavior. So I hope that they really do court-martial him.
Okay, now we have to end on a lighter note. Why won't Jennifer Lopez wear clothing? Explain this to me. She's 56. I think she's almost 57 now. She went to perform at some billionaire's wedding in India. No. Let me just show you what she chose to wear. Like I'm not begrudging her looking good at her age, but I'm in favor of clothing. Just a little. It doesn't have to be that much, but generally to cover your vag. Like that at 57 seems like an appropriate standard. Here, let's watch.
So like a Borat.
It's too much.
Like a Borat swimsuit. Yeah, okay. Sure. Yeah.
Why?
That's yeah. I mean, I don't get it at your age. I think that this is like exactly I think that this is first off, I've never felt bad for Ben Affleck, but he's like married and divorced this lady like seven times, all right, for probably these reasons. There's nothing more beautiful than a woman who is aging gracefully, because the beauty doesn't have to do with like how much skin you can show. And in a world of synthetics and OnlyFans and AI and clap traps all throughout the internet, it's less valuable than ever. So it's actually the reason why the meme on the right for young men is that they want a trad wife, not a party whore. They want a woman wearing like a dress, like a sunflower dress, right? Baking a sourdough.
My son said this to me.
Right, they want that woman.
My 16-year-old said that to me. My
Yes.
16-year-old said to me, the kids my age do not want these girls wearing next to nothing. They like, obviously some contingent does, but he's like, some modesty actually is considered very attractive, even at the teenage level.
Yeah, because what does that signal to men? That signals to men that sex is precious and is a gift that should be obviously.
There we go.
It should be. Oh no! Oh goodness!
It's the backward. Look at it. It's the backward thong.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And this was honestly one of the more modest outfits she wore there. Another one was this leather strappy. Look at this.
Oh my gosh.
Look at this. For the listening audience, it's just like 2 horizontal stripes over her backside and then 1 over the front side.
Yeah.
And you can see virtually everything. I'm sorry, Benny, why can't we have somebody who's like, she had her day of being the sex kitten when she was in her 20s and early 30s. It worked, made her a star. Why can't she now, as she's getting closer to pushing 60, you can still be saucy. She could wear a tight dress. She could pull a Tina Turner, right? Who never lost her sex appeal, ever, but didn't look desperate ever either.
Melania Trump is one of those women who,
yes,
like yesterday, she welcomes the Christmas tree to the White House. She's wearing multiple heavy layers.
Yes.
And she's the most beautiful woman on earth. Right, you're seeing.
Yes, she had plaid, or like Christmas plaid Manolos on,
Yes.
which were to die for, and her whole ensemble just screamed class and classic beauty.
I don't know what a Manolo is. Are you talking about her heels, her shoes? Okay.
Yes.
That's a random guess. It could have been something in her hair. But whatever that is, as men, we don't have any idea what the hell it is. We just look at the full package, right? As men, we're like very simple binary creatures. And in a world of AI synthetics and cheap OnlyFans thoughts, this stuff is like less valuable than ever, right? Being out there and, bearing, pretty much walking around naked. What is really rare and always has been actually is true beauty, and true beauty that sort of emanates from the inside. And that makes you a beautiful and light and bright person that you actually want to be around. And it's remarkable. That's the reason why Erika Kirk hugs people, actually, because people gravitate towards her because of that. It has really little to do with what she's wearing. I watched it happen. Just a real quick story. I watched that happen with Elon Musk, of all people. If there's one guy who is a literal Terminator robot, androgynous, and literally behaves like a robot, it's Elon Musk. And after Charlie Kirk's memorial, I watched Elon wait out back to just say hello to Erika Kirk. And she gave him like a 30-second prolonged hug. And it was like watching his little robot heart melt, right? It was like just one of the, one of these incredible movies, like a Pixar movie,
if this is
right?
Erika coming on to people with her hug, then she was coming on to my daughter, to me.
Yes.
Like, this is absurd. She's a hugger. She's a very loving, lovely woman. Only the most hateful trolls would take it someplace else. Benny Johnson, thank you. We're back tomorrow.